Hey Zeke, this is Brian Reno with Aquatic Resources out of Golden. Jody and I are making this video. I'm filming and I'll be talking to let you know about the fairway setups. We'll do downstairs here and then we'll do a separate video for upstairs. So here at Fairway, they beforehand had this Cat 4000 controller, and that was it. They had previously towers. No, they had buckets of chlorine and acid, and that's how they were handling chemicals. We got them switched over to our AccuTab and AcidRite systems. Much safer. Once the pool gets settled down and machines get dialed in, they're much easier to use. Over the weekend, the indoor pool, it was just in kind of a lockout mode. It had a low ORP as well as a decent pH of like, it was like 7.6. So I've had our AcidRite machine feed for a little while to lower our pH a hair because we needed to put in so much more chlorine, going from a 200 all the way up to an 800. So the way that this machine works is the controller calls for chlorine. It engages a contactor in the panel here. It starts the motor. It then allows water to flow into here, erode chemicals underneath the that are on the sieve plate, comes down here in a liquid state and then goes out to the pool as its disinfectant. The way that these are handled is you normally do your PPEs. They have product here. They have both the AccuTab and AcidRite. They're cool to sit by each other. But in here, probably want to keep the pucks about halfway full, if not a little bit more full. If it stays too full, sometimes depending on the number of bathers, the pucks may get a little sweaty. As you see, that one right there kind of did a little bit, and it kind of, it doesn't erode while it's sitting there, but it's prematurely getting moisture. So filling it up halfway at Fairway is probably a good idea. These top level of pucks, I put those on this morning just because I knew we'd be feeding it. We can just set the lid back on there, and that's just for the daily use. There is a clear check valve here. You'll see where we're running. It's at a 30-degree angle. Just kind of clearly showing that the water's going out. This is a gate valve. There's a black marker on there to know where things are at with it. It may have been a possibility that over the weekend or later last week that this valve was adjusted in a sense. It took us 2 turns to get it back to the point where we were able to actually flow water through the system when it was calling for chlorine. So usually when that happens, it was turned down, but minor adjustments to this should be made. And when I say minor, let's say that the pool does overfeed a hair. A minor adjustment, you'd fill it, kind of catch, and then you want to make just a little minor adjustment like that. That may give it another turnover or two to see where that lands you. But right now we're just kind of got it sitting going straight. And I will be here for the next couple hours trying to see where this pool settles in at. Over here is the AcidRite machine that Fairway has. It is sodium bisulfate tablets. Up here on currently the indoor pool and the spa that we'll get to later, only 3 columns are utilizing chemicals. If you put more in here, it makes the concentration a lot more and may overshoot where the chemicals are at. Here, as you see, just fill it up, and everything should be fine. It also works in the same method. There's a little port right there that will actually spit out water, and that's what erodes the chemicals. So say we got a 7.7 pH reading, the cat turns on, and what that does is, again, initiates a contactor here and then kicks the motor on. Water then begins to come into the system, erodes off the pucks, they fall down into a liquid state, and that liquid goes out to the pool to reduce the pH of the pool. So just a much simpler and safer method than having all the barrels of chemicals over there. Sodium bisulfate, just as an example, it's not eating me up or anything like that. So, but I do usually rinse my hands off after kind of handling it. This CAP 4000, it is currently set up to internet, where Jody now apparently and Al, the homeowner that is kind of overseeing this project, receive messages about it. So they're probably getting the low ORP alarm, and or it no longer actually has an official alarm, it's just low. But they get that info there. Yeah, so that's the indoor pool. The outdoor pool, been a little bit of a hot mess that we're waiting to see what it looks like coming back to life. All these pools were replastered a couple weeks ago. The outdoor pool was the last to get filled and plastered. So as it was filling, it was about time to circulate. We turned it on, and we had almost a continual flow of water out the backwash line, and we were discharging water faster than water was being put in by the hose. So we said, don't need to turn it on. Mr. Scott was looking for a multi-port valve. Looked like he found one on Amazon, ended up not ordering it. A whole week later, came around and it was asked of us to, if we had one. We had one at our shop, so I have a whole brand new high flow multi-port valve ready there. I don't believe it really needs to be replumbed. Just probably pull the seal off, put the new top hat and seal on there, and should probably be good to go. Notice here that Scott took out, I believe, yep, a blue and white flow meter from right there. That happened after he disassembled this. I was sitting here waiting for something that happened earlier today, and over here at his desk is a 2-inch pipe, blue and white. I did not open it up to verify if it is indeed. Yeah, so looks like set up. Oh, Assistant Jody is putting that over there. So that's doing better there. Parameters on the CAP 4000 have roughly been put in, but we have not had any water circulating to do anything with it. With that being said, the outdoor chlorine and acid machine have not been set up in the sense of electronics with being connected to power. So whenever yourself or someone gets it all put back together, please let us know so we can bring over extension cords and get these plugged in for the time being, because an electrician was over here a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and Jody has the quote and knows of it, and she sounds like she's going to give it the go-ahead. But somewhere over here they will put some new outlets for the 120 volt cords that go to each chlorinator and AcidRite machine into there, and then can get it fired up. This is going to be its circulation motor. Never seen it run in my life. It was running when I first came to this pool, and then winter happened. So it should be good. There might be a little pin hair leak over here. It was thought that this actually had a leak, but in fact I don't know where it's actually leaking. But it's just a slight little drip. But that slight little drip is the least of the worries, in the sense of that pool's been chemically balanced 3 times. After it was plastered, it was brushed multiple times, it was vacuumed. I think it was on Friday. And so it's just ready to be back up and put into circulation. So that's where it stands. On the chlorinators, you have supply lines that both have ball valves, and then you also have return lines that both have ball valves. So feel free to get the system up and circulating, and worry about those guys later, because as you know, you can just hand feed everything and get you by for a short time period. But those still do need to be set up, so myself or a tech will have to come back out and get working on those. These jugs, there's a jug down there and there, that is metal out. Prior to plaster, they had a lot of metals in their water. They should be plugged in and programmed, but obviously we're having challenges with electrical outlets, so that was the least of the worries. And you weren't really supposed to put the metal out systems up and going right after the pool was replastered. So that is kind of the gist down here in the indoor pump room. A little showing of what all is here. They have some thio, some sodium bisulfate, but not the chemical that goes into the hoppers. Some, it says cat litter, so there we are, some soda ash. That sounds a little better for a pool than cat litter. And then some soda bicarbonate. So that's kind of what's here. In that sense, there's some odd and end parts for the old systems that were here. I would say bring your tools, because there are some kind of tools here, but I've not my business. I haven't utilized any of them. But overall, that is what the look of everything is. I honestly, Miss Jody, I don't know what the HOA would like to do with these chemicals. So you guys may want to touch base on those. Or if you want to utilize any of them to kind of help get the outdoor pool up and going, feel free, do at your own risk. All right. So the next video will be from upstairs in the spa room. A heads up that this door, if Mr. Scott is here, it tends to be locked. Miss Cindy does have a key, and I think that might be all who has that key. Out here, outside of that door, have some of the chlorine and then acid bucket. But as you can kind of see from the video, there's acid buckets that are full in there that utilized for tables. So instead of making another video, we'll just keep this one going. It was brought to Jody's attention this weekend that the scum line around both the indoor pool and hot tub need to be addressed. Housing member made note when I saw Jody about scum line on the stairs there, and just in general, it's been a hot minute since it has been addressed, and it sounded like Jody was wanting to take care of that of herself today, but she's not in the attire to do so. Here in the hot tub, we have some, very much so. This tile actually just brushed with a little elbow grease for a hot second, just to show her what it involved, and her attire wasn't quite ready for that today. Up here in the spa room, electrician is again supposed to come and put in another box or two for the Acid Right and Chlorinator 120 volt power supplies. I don't know if they're putting one box that has two on there or what they're doing. I was here but not up in this room when that transpired. Up here, the chemical controller, we're doing a lot better than we were earlier this morning. This unit is not connected to the internet yet. Both this unit and the new unit downstairs have been programmed with passwords and Wi-Fi connections by Mr. Al, but servers and technology just don't seem to be communicating to each other. So it sounds like Jody is going to recommend to Mr. Al to contact a gentleman named Frank that is apparently Hayward's cat expert. I've had a call out to him for a couple days and hadn't heard back. But there was an issue that came about this weekend, sometime this weekend, in the spa area, and that was because the pH was at like a 9, and that was because the hopper here for the acid had no chemicals in it. Again, as I said, just go with the 3 columns here. I have filled this up this morning, and it's gotten itself back down after some little manual feeds to get it inside of its parameters, so he should be good to go. You might be asking, how often do these need to be filled up? I'm a former pool operator. I actually ran Foothills Parks and Rec pools. We had a big indoor rec center and 4 outdoor pools. All of them are on these systems. This can probably go, filling it up like this, probably 2, maybe 3 days. As I believe I told Scott, I really don't know. You'll have to see how the users are, in the hot tub. If this gets pounded and the indoor pool doesn't, then things would be different. And as you know, the hot tubs are just nasty, so it's going to use up a bit more chemicals. Yeah, so that one just goes to the top there. These are good to go. Over here on the chlorine side, as I mentioned, Puck's kind of sweating. It's hot in this room. It's up near 86 degrees. Plus we got that warm water underneath here. This is the sweating that I was talking about. It's nothing to be alarmed. As the chlorine feeds, these will go down and off it goes, so it'll be fine. Water goes down on that little plate. Nothing sprays, so feel free to open the lid and not run for your life. Water just comes up, percolates out of that center, and then goes around in a circle. So nothing to be alarmed of there. Up here, typically, is a Macutab bucket and then an Acid Right bucket. Up here, from old go-rounds, he's got some granular. I think that's got some more granular, and some more granular. Because before we got here, this spa was being chemically treated manually, believe it or not. So done a lot of improvements in the sense of trying to get things all chemical automated, and thus the homeowner wants to keep a little more track of things. I mentioned downstairs to Jody, I didn't mention in this video, that homeowner Al is he's a very smart individual. He wanted some VFD motors so that they could kind of cut down on some electrical cost on the indoor pool. There's Miss Jody. The indoor pool, for like 3 days we'd been running at a certain RPM, and then we lowered it down per what Al wanted. He said he did the math of just above what the state minimum was. So it really slowed down the turnover rate. Modifying that turnover rate, I believe, kind of changed the rate at which our chemicals were being fed into the pool as well. So that could have had some impact on this pool being chemically out of balance the other day. This spa motor has also been turned significantly down. It's running at like 1890. Scott and I believe that's the number that Al had wanted. So, but then again, this morning I had to go and adjust these two to get appropriate feed going into them, because I had to actually open up the valve more to allow water to flow through it, because we weren't getting water to flow through it. But it makes sense. If the speed of water going through there was a lot slower, going through there might not have been opening up our check valves. So it all is kind of hand in hand. So make one tweak, gotta tweak something else. So yeah, so that's kind of the gist up here. It's got a metal out system too, but definitely not enough plugs, since we have a little risk there. The Accutab and AcidRite controllers, each one has a cord that says controller and another one that says 120, like that. So I have these unplugged at this moment because I was feeding chlorine and, or actually, excuse me, I was feeding acid to lower it down, because with us running out of pucks in here at some point, the pH for the hot tub was like at a 9.2, so we're now apparently down to a 7.4, so we're kicking butt there, and our chlorine's at a 680, so that should be a pretty decent number. I don't know where it actually balances out at right now with where everything's at, but on the spa, heads up on this one for you, Miss Jody, as well. Mr. Al downstairs kind of was looking at this, the flow meter. Flow meter is kind of like a speedometer. Downstairs, I think he was getting it down to be like 70 gallons a minute or something. Can't remember. This guy here, as I was trying to lower this down to where Al was looking for, this thing wasn't moving at all. Even when he turned the system completely off, it still shows it being like, yep, 97 gallons per minute. So so someone can tell Al if they would like. I did mention it to Scott, and another thing broke. So there's that. Additionally, I did tell Jody that from the moment this pool got filled to up until the last day I was here, which I think was last Wednesday, when you came over and turned the jets on, it initiates a contactor in here, turns the motor on. We have bubbles, but these aren't the bubbles or the jets that we had. It had been bubbling up so nice and good that it was bubbling, you know. So that's my observation, that it kind of got toned down somehow, and I upped the RPMs on it and still did not have much luck. So we'll even go to 31, but we were at like 25. So we're almost another 1,000 RPMs and barely showing a little bit more, but all I know is how the bubbles were when it first got plastered. So just a heads up on that. That might be an item that comes back up. We do have the outside handrail that still needs to be installed outside for the outdoor pool. But yeah, so that's kind of where things are at here. I can honestly tell you, I personally have not backwashed this filter nor the one downstairs. I don't know if Scott has or not. There is generally a test kit here. Just a full Taylor one, so you don't need to bring that if you don't want to. Pool equipment, they do have a piranha skimmer and then a brush. So they're set up for some pretty good stuff on that sense of things. So yeah, outdoor pool is a lot smaller. But still is not circulating, obviously. But kind of a little milky, so it's in need of love that it should have had. So I have no idea where that pool tarp goes. So it was on before the plaster job started, and I don't know where it goes now.
I think we're sending that to Craig to get repaired.
Oh, okay.
For Zeke's reference.
Oh. Yep, so that's kind of what's going on here. Did I cover everything?
I think so. You're a wealth of knowledge, sir.
So, yeah, make sure you have a key fob to get in and out. If not, Miss Cindy.
I have that in my handbag to take to him today.
Okay, if not, Miss Cindy, if she's here, she has access to let you in. Yeah, so that's kind of it on the scope of those things. All the pools do have a water level controller. Just for your knowledge, since you're in the realm of Jody, this pool, it got plastered first, it got filled up overnight, it did drop water. So obviously there's no cracks in the plaster or anything. So it inevitably has a leak somewhere underneath it, and it's pool piping, no idea, because all the pool piping is upstairs here. But so its water level controller is probably continuously going. I don't know how, obviously with only the indoor pool having been chemically automated to a certain extent, I don't know how things were managed on the calcium of things with regarding calcium hardness. I can tell you that with this system, I'm guessing the other YMCAs are either on bleach or on Pulsar. Pulsar is another Cal Hypo product. This is a Cal Hypo product, so it is constantly putting in calcium, which is good for the pool plaster because it enjoys it, but you will need to monitor its calcium level as the year or the season goes on. Indoor, and it all just depends on the number of users as well. Outdoor, you'll probably be fine. You know, you'll get some calcium, but then by the end of the season, you'll maybe want to start backwashing a bit more to keep it good, to keep that calcium number a little bit happier. And what keeping that calcium number down will do is it'll actually help keep the sieve plate a little bit cleaner. At the end of the summer, if you're the one that's kind of overseeing things, each chlorine system has a plethora of valves here. That's actually a cleaning loop, so that you can take the pucks out, let it rinse out, PPE up a little bit, pour some muriatic acid in there and do a little loop. It'll actually clean the whole entire unit internals without you getting all nasty yourself, and then just pump that water back out to the outdoor pool or chemically rebalance it. So that's kind of how you clean the AccuTab, as really brief. The Acidrite, no real need to clean it. There are some little every 6 to 8 month maintenance things to kind of change up on them, but hopefully we'll be in contact and I can run you through that over a FaceTime call. No need to have us come out from Golden. So yeah, so that's really the gist of it all. All right.